Hi.
Just introduce yourself and tell us why you decided to complete this path.
Sure. So, a little bit about me. I am 20 years old and I just graduated with my bachelor's degree in elementary education from the University of Hawaii, West Oahu. And I do have a classroom of my own filled with 22 very fun, exciting students back at home. So, I'm excited to start my school year with them once I get back to Hawaii. And then I actually joined MAG to give myself an opportunity to learn how to really dress up. And I also did it as a form of self love because I was in high school when COVID hit. So my whole senior year got taken away, which meant no prom, no homecoming, no winter ball, all of those sorts of things. So coming into MAG, I was like, oh yeah, this will be super fun. I get to dress up, I get to be around such empowering women, and I get to also be here with all of you.
Thank you, Sky. So, talking about what's happening currently in Hawaii,
Mhm.
fires now, when you return to Hawaii, what's going to be your first priority?
My first priority is going to be to make sure my students are okay. Throughout this whole entire week, I've been getting emails from my principal saying, like, just reminding us of how we can keep our students safe because they need to make sure that they have their inhalers if they have asthma and any sort of other medication. I'm on the island of Oahu, which is about a 40-minute flight away from Maui, where the fires were. And with the vlog that'll be coming in or possibly coming in, I just want to make sure that they're safe. So for them, like that's my number one priority. And because we're in an AC classroom, it should be much safer than them with or than having the windows. So for me, that's something I'm definitely going to take care of first, their well-being.
Sky, how would you use your title crown to help you?
I would use my title crown to help my community by promoting my social platform. So for me, I really believe in equitable education. I'm at a Title I school, which means that more than half of my students are from low income households. Actually, half of my students didn't show up for meet and greet with school supplies, or they just didn't show up at all because either their parents are working so many different jobs. And then on top of that, their parents are just not around. A lot of them, a couple of them actually live with guardians, and yeah, they just don't have the money for supplies. So if I can have that crown and that title, I can really help get them the supplies that they need in order to really succeed. So that's something I would do with my title.
You were the mayor of
Three things I would do to improve the city is definitely allocate funds for education. That's something that we always push for, but we never get. So for me, my starting salary is only like $4,000 a month, which is really low, especially with the high cost of living. And I feel like the teachers, for every single paycheck that we get, it goes back to our students. So we don't really have enough money for rent. And majority of the teachers have a second job. So I want to allocate funds to education. On top of that, our homelessness issue is a really big thing. And part of it is just because housing is so expensive. And with more people coming in from the mainland, buying land, it makes it very difficult for the is another big thing. A lot of the land is being taken away. So for example, there was a 30-meter telescope issue that was going on top of Mauna Kea. They were trying to build this really big telescope on top of a volcano that is super duper sacred to the Hawaiians. So with a lot of their land being taken away, I feel like it's very important to honor that land because it does not belong to us. I'm not Hawaiian and I recognize that, and I know that I am a foreigner to their land. But as a teacher, I feel like it is my responsibility to teach students to really care for the place that they come from. So I want to allocate funds to education, take care of the homelessness situation, and also make sure that the Native Hawaiian people get the land that they deserve.
Sky, you talked about there is what's called the gender gap, or the way where women are hospitalized for dollar.
Mhm.
What do you think you can combat that?
For the salary gap between women and men, I feel like it's just very important to recognize how hard a woman works, and it's also important to educate. So for me as a teacher, I want to instill that, we're all equal. Women are not better than men are not better than women. Everybody is on the same level. And I think if I can instill that into my students and they become such amazing change makers, then that will definitely be an issue that can be resolved. For me, I definitely see myself as a leader. As a teacher, I am, giving a lot more to my students. And then on top of that, not only do I work with elementary school students, I've also done stuff at the high school level and also with the intermediate school. I am actually a chapter advisor for a Collegiate Honor Society on our high school campus that I went to. So I'm giving back to my community in that sense. But it's really important for me to make decisions, but at the same time, be a listener. I don't think I'm a follower, but I think I'm a leader who really listens to everybody and who really takes their thoughts and opinions into consideration. So that's how I would best describe myself. Artists as in singers or any way that I want? Awesome. So my favorite artist is Nikki. She is from Indonesia. And for me, she's really, really special because she's an Asian artist. I know a lot of people on the radio are Caucasian or are Black. And then for me, seeing that representation inside of the music industry is really important. So fun fact, she just announced that she's coming to Hawaii, and a lot of artists don't come here. So I'm really, really, really excited. And I actually bought tickets to go see her with my sister. This was after I spent all my money for the pageant, but I'm hoping that my paycheck for my work can go right back into those 2 tickets. But I really wanted to treat my sister to this opportunity. And yeah, I really believe in cultural representation. So thank you so much for being here. And I really enjoyed our interview together. And I will see you at the judges' reception. Thank you.
What do you think is the biggest challenge facing your generation?
I think one of the biggest challenges that are facing my generation is definitely the use of social media. I think on one hand, although it makes communication more efficient, on the other hand, I think it has really hindered us from making deep personal connections. I think that what's really important is that we are able to communicate with others so that we can solve issues together as a community. And sometimes through social media, that really hinders us. So I think that's definitely one of our greatest issues in our society today. Yes.
I'm wondering what you look forward to learning about as it comes to aging as a woman.
I've never really thought about aging as a woman. I think, of course, I'm still young. I will be an incoming freshman at UC Berkeley this fall studying business administration. And I think in life, I'm someone who really likes to go with the flow. I'm very open-minded to new opportunities that arise. I never thought that I would be doing a pageant today, and yes, here I am, right? So I think I'm always very open-minded to any new opportunities that arise for me, and I'm always willing to jump at it and take a risk and go for it. So, I've never really thought about that. Mm-hmm. Personally, as the former captain of my high school dance team for 2 years, I have really been able to discover my own leadership style. And that's something that I like to call quiet leadership. And I'll tell you a little story behind that. I used to work with a co-captain who had a very different personality from me. She was much more loud, a bit bossy even, and much more assertive. However, I was a little bit more soft-spoken. And originally, I didn't feel like I was doing good enough as a leader because I was often talked over. But I think over time, with practice and experience, I've really realized that to be a good leader, it doesn't necessarily take being the loudest or the most extroverted person. And sometimes being a good leader is to be able to be a role model for others and to set a good example for others to follow. So that is something that I really value in leadership. And that's something that I think will really lead our future.
Can you share with us one of your favorite artists and what draws you to them?
One of my favorite artists through dance, I do a lot of dance. And one of my favorite artists is Tanya Yuan. She is the principal ballet dancer of San Francisco Ballet. And I think Asian American representation is so important. She provides just that. So I really admire her.
As a young Asian woman, what hurdles do you see that face
I think as Asians, oftentimes we are not very confrontational and sometimes we are not willing to take risks. However, as a young Asian woman, that is something that I strive to improve on every single day. And I try to take any risks and try to take any opportunities that arise and go for it. And so that's why I'm here at Miss Asian Global today. I actually was a backstage assistant last year, helping out all the other girls. And I felt so inspired by them that the next day I told my mom, you know what, I want to compete for Miss Asian Global this year. And so that's why I'm here today. And I'm so glad that I made that decision.
That's a getting into Cal. How do you hope to make an impact on the business?
In the future, I do really hope to be able to attend law school after getting my undergrad business degree. I want to become a corporate attorney to help Asian-owned businesses. And if that doesn't work out, I'm always very open-minded, but if that doesn't end up working out, I've always had the idea of starting my own business venture, maybe related to dance or fashion. I'm very passionate about fashion as well. I am currently the ambassador of a nonprofit organization called Catwalk for Charitable Causes, produced by fashion designer Monique Zhang and California State Treasurer Fiona Ma. And what we do is we produce charity fashion shows throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. And my personal contribution to that is to be able to dance and model at these charity fashion shows to support my community. And I'm really glad and grateful to have this opportunity to be able to combine both my passions for dance and fashion while being able to make an impact in my community. I think one of the weaknesses that kind of stems from being soft-spoken is also not asking for help. I think as an Asian American, oftentimes we are a little bit more shy and reserved. And growing up, I was a little bit like that as well. But I think through my experiences and activities such as dance and fashion modeling, they have really helped me to grow and to break out of my shell. And so that is definitely something that I've always worked on. Sometimes I'm afraid to ask for help, but I really worked on that. And I think it's important to ask for help when you need it. And so that's always something that I'm really working to improve on every single day.
What is there that you can teach my generation?
I think something that we can teach past our generations is to really provide future generations with the inspiration and mentorship. Something that Miss Asian Global stands for is mentorship, aspirations, and growth. And I think that is so important. I think mentorship is something that is so important that Frances has also instilled in me as well. I think to have someone who is a role model for you and to be able to share their experiences and knowledge with you is something that is so important. And so that's why I'm really glad that I joined Miss Asian Global, because I get that chance to have that mentorship. I think oftentimes previous generations, such as our parents, will provide us with really high expectations. I think especially coming from an Asian immigrant family, oftentimes we face that pressure of always having to get good grades to be successful or to achieve certain things. And I think something that we can teach previous generations is to sometimes just let us be ourselves. And I think that one day when we pursue our own passions, we will be successful on our own. And so there's no set way, there's no set path to success. I think every person's pathway is different. And I think that's something that is really important. Ooh, I'm definitely a carb baby. My mom, when she was pregnant with me, she told me that she unfortunately gained a lot of weight because I love carbs, but one of my favorite foods is definitely pasta. Well, thank you so much for all your questions. I really enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon at the judges reception.
Why are you to compete?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. My name is Felicia Tang. I'm 24 years old. I'm actually born and raised in the Bay Area, but I moved to Shanghai, China when I was 6 years old, and I lived there for 7 years. I really enjoyed my time there because I actually attended an international school, and that really taught me how to embrace other people and my classmates who came from very different cultures and backgrounds than I did. And I also became a really big foodie as a result because I love trying all of my classmates' lunches that they brought from home that their parents made. However, when I moved back to the US and I later attended college at UC Berkeley, I realized how such a simple thought as to what to eat next for my next meal was a privilege that I had that many of my community members didn't have. That really drove me to address food insecurity and volunteer to promote nutrition advocacy in my community. And currently, I am a medical student at UCSF. I'm actually starting my second year next week. I'm very excited, and I hope to become a physician and advocate and continue to work on improving nutrition access, because not many people think about how food is such the root cause of a lot of the chronic health conditions that we face today. And so that's something that I'm very passionate about. Yeah. And I'm here today because I actually competed in another pageant a long time in high school, actually 7 years ago. That transformed me. And I think that now I'm going into my second year of medical school. I really want to have that experience again and push myself even furthermore so that I can be a better physician in the future for my patients.
As a young person, there's just a lot of global. What are some advice that you could give to someone?
I think something I would tell our leaders is the importance of diversity. Recently, with the Supreme Court ruling about the racially based affirmative action, I think that was something that I really was pretty passionate about and hearing, because I'm in higher education and I'm going into healthcare, where it's really important to have a group of trainees who are diverse, because they will be treating patients who are very diverse. And only when I'm in a student group who have very different backgrounds and cultures than I do, I learn from them, we learn from each other. And as a result, when we have, when we're treating a patient in the future who's different from us, who have very different values, we're still able to provide the highest quality care. And whether that's like racially based or whatever, any other characteristic, I think it's very important that we address diversity in healthcare and especially in education. That's something that I really think is important to, I would like to talk to the government officials about, which is making sure that we address diversity, especially in a country where we need to talk about race, because we can't get rid of racism or any other prejudice without talking about it, or without addressing it up front. Thank you.
So, there are many of your executives that three issues that happen.
I think the first issue that comes to mind is definitely improving public transportation. I know how the Muni at Chinatown took quite a number of years to build, and I am somebody who absolutely doesn't enjoy driving in San Francisco. Every time, just I get really nervous. And I think if there was better public transportation available, that will really eliminate the need for me to have to drive and navigate the complicated streets of FS. So that's something that I would really talk about. Second of all, I actually currently in medical school, I'm a part of Shelter Clinic, which is a clinic, and we're trying to pioneer a new medical program service in a homeless shelter. And that's near kind of Market Street, near Union Square area. And that's something that I want to continue to, that's actually a part of something that I'm really interested in, just nutrition advocacy and helping people who are underserved. And I think to the mayor, I would also say to really promote more acceptance towards people who are homeless, because there's a lot of prejudice and stigma towards people who are experiencing homelessness, and really drives even more cases because people don't want to hire them. People don't want to provide them a job. People don't want to address provide more affordable housing. They don't want to see, buildings in their neighborhoods that are for the people who are homeless. So I would tell the mayor that the stigma we really need to address in order to help the people who are experiencing homelessness. And the third thing I would talk about is definitely the environment and global warming. I think it's something that we all need to address. And I know with like more electrical vehicles, that's definitely beneficial to the environment, but there are also definitely other resources that we can utilize, because I believe that making electrical vehicles that also utilizes oil and gas, and that can also contribute to global warming. So if we can, I guess that's kind of, I'm circling back, which is if we can create better public transportation, that really helps with the climate change issue that we're facing today. Yeah.
With one person, who would that person be? What would you want to discuss? And
what would I be eating? Okay. I love that question. I would want to have dinner with my mom when she was younger. So hopefully that question allows me to time travel back a little bit, because as an immigrant herself, I think her goal was always to come to the US and provide a better future for her children, but I always wanted to get to talk to her younger self and see what were her aspirations back then, other than, coming to the US and creating a better future for children. She had her friends, her social circles, the things that she enjoyed as well. And I think it would just be such a unique and bonding experience. And I would get to even know her a lot more. And that would really help me with the cultural and generational gap that we have as well. And one thing that we would be eating for sure would be my grandpa's homemade wontons, because every year when we would go back to Shanghai during the summer, we would land at the airport, hop off, and an hour later I'd be at my grandparents' place, and she would always prepare a warm bowl of homemade wontons. And I think it would be a pleasure to share that with my mother when she was younger. Yeah, thank you so much for all your questions today. I had such a
I'm from Orlando, Florida. Not originally. I lived in a lot of places in the US, but my journey to Orlando was really interesting. It started in Houston, Texas, and I spent a lot of my childhood in Colorado, where I went to school there. I lived with my family. I'm the oldest of 3 siblings. And from there, when I decided to study in college, I did a lot of dance on the side. Originally, I wanted to study journalism because I never saw an Asian face on TV. And I was like, I would look good on CNN, I think, maybe. So that's what I decided to study. But during that time, I didn't know that was really what I wanted. And it wasn't until one summer when I was at a dance camp. I taught my first kids workshop, and I had one 8-year-old basically change the course of my career. And she was the reason why I decided to switch into learning how to become a teacher. So I took a leap of faith. And during that time, home was it wasn't all walks in the park. So I decided to take a leap and leave everything that I knew and decided to study at Mills College here in Oakland. And I taught for the last 5 years. And throughout teaching the pandemic, decided to take another leap and be closer to my family who moved to Florida. And so that's how I went over there. And currently now I'm looking to get my master's in STEM, and I'm currently on sabbatical from teaching. Yeah, thank you. I think a piece of advice that I would give to elected leaders is to listen more. I think that in our world right now, we share a lot of differences, and it's really important that people feel heard in their ideas. And when we are able to listen to each other and embrace our differences, I think from there we can think about solutions, because sometimes when we're not heard, it feels like our opinion doesn't matter. And I know what that feels like. So I think that's one piece of advice, is to listen more and to really educate our youth in order for them to be aware of the issues that are happening. So that way, some of these issues can be prevented. I am. I think older sibling syndrome is a real thing. My 2 younger sisters, I felt like I had to grow up really fast because my parents, I didn't grow up in a traditional family household where parents stayed together. They actually split when I was really young. And I felt like I kind of had to have a tough skin in front of my sisters to really protect them and show them, hey, it's going to be okay. But that kind of hurt me in the end because I couldn't feel like I could be myself. I couldn't lean on them like I am able to now. So I think my one piece of advice and how I apply that to the world is knowing that I can be human and it's okay to be vulnerable and be my true self. That's really why I joined this pageant as well. This is the second time I'm ever doing a pageant. The first one I did was Miss Vietnam, Florida earlier this year. And during that experience, the biggest lesson I took from that was I wasn't really being my true self. I thought that being part of a pageant, you should look a certain way. You should be this tall. You should not have tattoos. And I actually covered it during that time. But now coming into this pageant, I have never felt so much more comfortable in my own skin. So that's one piece of advice I would give, is to be more comfortable in your skin and to be vulnerable. Thank you.
you had a chance to have dinner with one person, alive or past, who would that person be and what would you want to discuss?
If I had to choose one person to have dinner with, it would have to be Michelle Obama. I actually have the same birthday as her, so I do think sometime in my lifetime, I think I should have dinner with her at some point. That'll be my, like my icebreaker. Be like, oh, is your birthday on January 17th? Because mine is too. But I would love to have dinner with her because I think she's one of the most influential women in history, especially as a first lady, and being able to use her platform and empower youth, and especially with an education, that's something I'm super passionate about. So one of her initiatives I was really inspired by was some of the programs that she implemented for nutrition. And that's part of my platform as well. So I would love to be able to bounce ideas off of her and have her as a mentor.
Can you talk a little bit as an Asian woman about either the glass ceiling or the bamboo ceiling and your efforts to try to shatter that and stereotypes?
Yes. One of the challenges that I faced as an Asian American woman myself is breaking stereotypes that I'm good at math. That was one of the biggest things. Growing up, I was never good at math. I didn't pass into the AP calculus class. And I remember sitting and looking at my teacher like, wow, did I just fail everything that I knew? And even when it came to choosing my career path, there's not many Asian faces that were in the media during that time. So something that I did within myself to help me combat that was, to overcome that was understanding why I was doing what I was doing, why I was able to connect with that 8-year-old so much, and the fact that I saw a little bit of myself in her too. So I think many Asian American women struggle with, first of all, seeing themselves in leadership roles, but also seeing themselves outside of the box. I think we were taught to be silenced and to not really use our voice as much because we're not allowed to share our stories or our opinion. But as I've gotten older, and even as a teacher, I've noticed the importance of that. So it's really important to be able to use your voice in your platform.
You're most excited about it.
I'm most excited this moment. I'm so excited to meet all of you. So this was awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.